Emma, thank you very much for joining Energy Live News. The UK energy market has been hit hard the last couple of weeks by one of the biggest crises. What are your thoughts about this crisis and what the industry is doing for this?
So clearly it's an international crisis. That's the first thing to say. We've had a 300% increase in the gas price this year. I don't think anyone could characterize that as anything other than a sort of, unusual black swan event internationally. That said, the impacts on the UK have been more serious than in other places. And I think on the security of supply side, we feel confident about the autumn winter period, which is good, even though we're a significant importer of gas. The real vulnerability that's been exposed actually is on our retail industry, where our retailers are struggling to deal with the significant price hikes in the context of our regulatory framework.
Mhm. I wonder, though, if it is just the gas prices, because there are many people out there that have doubts if it is just the gas prices that led
Oh, it's
to this
definitely not
crisis.
just the gas price. Yeah,
They say, yeah, they say that Britain's energy crisis has been a year in the making. Since 2015, policies to insulate Britain's homes and diversify the energy supply have stalled. What's your take on that?
So on the system resilience question, in the long run, I think the government is doing absolutely the right thing in the UK, which is pushing on with decarbonisation. This is fundamentally we're relying on a commodity which is subject to the vagaries of geopolitics and international demand. So having our own domestic sources of generation and storage, very good idea. And in that regard, whilst the overall plan is in the right direction, we are missing things like a decision on new nuclear. We have a hydrogen strategy now, but we've been calling for carbon capture and hydrogen for a long time. So I think there's an argument about, even if we're going in the right direction, even if we've got a good track record in terms of decarbonising the power sector, and even if the government is now making the right choices, whether they could have gone quicker. And then certainly on the consumer side, we're waiting on the heat and building strategy still. And in the long run, getting off gas in our homes and on into other sources of low carbon heating and improving the quality of our building stock will also help consumers be insulated from price rises. And that is a problem that we haven't done anywhere near enough for decades. So, let us hope that this current crisis doesn't delay the heat and building strategy coming out, because if anything, it demonstrates we really need it.
So do you believe that this crisis is a combination of factors? I mean, of course, it is the gas prices, but of course, it has a part to play these policies, the lack of policies in the last years.
I think at the moment, the biggest significant factor in terms of the system is the gas price. And I would still say that is an international issue. And again, a good reinforcer of what we're saying about where the energy system in the UK needs to go. As I said, the real vulnerability we're experiencing at the moment is in retail. Actually, it's not in the system. We've got a secure supply so far as we can see it across the autumn winter, even with the high gas price, because we have an energy mix. So where we're experiencing difficulties or exposing fragility, it's on our retail regulation rather than on the system.
There was a quite interesting interview yesterday from OPEC Secretary General Mohammed Barkinto on CNBC, saying that soaring gas prices are the cost of the attempted shift to renewable energy sources. He even named it a transition premium that is, energy market is facing right now. What's your thoughts about that?
I think OPEC must be absolutely terrified that everyone suddenly realized that oil and gas are a volatile international commodity. So I don't think that's a surprising comment. I don't think it's the take of any agnostic energy analyst.
Mm-hmm. Yesterday, nearly 15 suppliers, they sent a letter to BASE and Ofgem accusing the regulator of being unfit to regulate the sector. They said that Ofgem had a lack of preparation for the storm that has been brewing since the start of 2021. What's your opinion on that?
Look, I've said it's an extraordinary time, and that's true. But I've been in this job for a year, and I have been into government at least once a week since taking this job, saying we think the retail sector is fragile, the retailers aren't making any money, that cannot be a good thing heading into a more unpredictable period in energy. Furthermore, it can't be a good thing if you want them to participate in the net zero transition and be offering customers other products and services. How are they supposed to invest to innovate in the current regulatory framework? The average return for retailers over the last couple of years has been a -1%, and that's on the government's own figures. And I think they were incredibly vulnerable. I think we knew it. I think we raised it. And I have questions about why that was dismissed for so long relative to an interest in other areas of energy policy. So I feel like some of this is, unpredicted, unprecedented, very difficult for any sector to manage. And we're not the only energy market that, is having to adjust now. But a lot of the basic market responses in this sort of situation, the ability to forward hedge, the ability to be flexible about, your tariffs, and actually having some room in terms of your margin, are not available in the UK retail market. So the priority right now is making sure customers are all right over the next few weeks, particularly if there are going to be retail failures. But on the other side of this, we have some really big questions for the regulator about how we got here.
We heard the business secretary on Monday making a statement to the House of Commons saying that there would be no government bailout for the companies that have gone under. Is it right to let the struggling energy suppliers to fail, to close down?
So he's talking about failing companies, and in a market you do have companies that don't succeed. We've had companies exiting the market before, right? So I don't think anyone in the energy industry is going and saying you should bail out companies that would otherwise fail. But we're talking about a pretty scary environment for retail where good companies that are well run may fail. And I think that's the situation we're in. Furthermore, in the event of market failures, for whatever reason, the sector is sufficiently vulnerable that good, well-run companies are possibly not able to pick up the customers of any failing companies. And then again, in that sort of situation, you have to accept that it's a market-wide problem. It's not about the running of a particular company. So, on a number of levels, I think the sector is going to need some additional support. And really, it's not about supporting particular companies. It's about supporting customers who've been let down by a regulatory framework. And, again, the short-term priority here is making that customers have secure supply, and that we've done all we can in relation to bills and all of that good stuff over the next few weeks are a really challenging period. But wow, do we need to look at our retail framework, and we cannot lose sight of the fact that there must have been some serious issues with our regulation in this country to have ended up in this place. And it's impacting our ability to have a vibrant, successful, sustainable market. And that's very harmful for customers, but it's also very harmful for the net zero transition.
Do you believe that the price cap is in the right direction? Do you believe that this mechanism protects or puts more pressure on customers and energy suppliers?
So right now, the price cap is, insulating customers from a pretty nasty gas price. So there are a range of views in the membership, but I think we recognise it's doing a job for the next few weeks. In terms of retail policy, as I've said, I think we do need a root branch review of every bit of our retail regulation, and the price cap is included in that. There are some basic things with the price cap. It's staying or going is the kind of wrong question at this stage. You can look at the details of the price cap, whatever side of that fence you're on, and say, it does look like it's out of step or an inflexible instrument, given how quickly the market is changing now. So, for example, how quickly the price changes, the ability of companies to hedge within it, all of that kind of stuff. So the actual methodology of the price cap. So you can start there even before you get onto questions of, what our regulatory framework overall should look like. And again, on the other side of this, we need some real attention to retail policy. And again, on the other side of this, we need to ask why, when we've raised these questions with the regulator and government over the last couple of years, they've been dismissed.
Emma, my last question for you is about your expectation for this crisis. Do you believe that we are going to have a very, very difficult winter?
It sort of depends what the government does next. So there's what industry can control, and in that regard, we're pretty confident about security of supply. National Grid have said that, the Secretary of State has said that. So, you know, that's job number one for the energy sector. The question of retail and what happens in the next few weeks is now really down to what the government and regulator do. You know, working in partnership with industry. Industry is doing what it can. You know, the players that can do it or are trying to do it are stepping up and taking on customers if there have been retail failures. We're trying to come up with solutions for, you know, what if this gets worse or it's very difficult to pick up customers, and looking at existing instruments. When the price cap went up in the autumn, the retailers also put up some additional support for vulnerable and fuel poor customers. And we've raised the issue of things like prepayment customers and what help they might need specifically through this period too. The next move is really governments, and we need it to be quite quick, I think, because the impacts of this will be fierce and they'll be fast. So we've done what we can as a sector. We are, as ever, held hostage by what the government and the regulator do next. But at the moment, regardless of this long conversation about what we do in the future for our retailers and for the system and the rest of it, we want to keep working together. I think everyone's priority right now is the end user and the customer, and just making sure we do our fundamental jobs of, secure supply and energy that is as affordable as possible.
Emma, thank you very, very much for your time. It was really a pleasure talking to you. Thank you.
You too. Thank you.
Have a lovely day. Bye-bye.
You too. Bye.